today we're going to talk about 4 big distractions that could derail your freight broker business. This is what we got a lot of information to go over today. So we're going to dive into this. We're going to pull this apart. And number 1 on the list, and these are in no discernible order, but one of the primary distractions that you are going to face as a startup freight broker or as an entrepreneur in almost any industry is listening to too many people. Now, what I mean by that is this. When you have an idea for a business, whether that be whatever business that is, and many times you want to get feedback from people that are closest to you. You want to ask them, do you know anything about this? What do you think about my idea? And that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting feedback from people. Maybe you're even getting feedback from people that are already in that industry or doing that business. And I think that's a great idea. The challenge is listening to too many people, because what happens is if you have too many voices and opinions in your head, it can literally confuse and distract you and overwhelm you, right? So having a lot of different people in your ear, giving their opinions, giving their feedback, giving you ideas can be positive when it's very controlled, but when it gets too wide and you get too many people chirping in your ear, it can get overwhelming and very distracting. Another issue with listening to too many people is a lot of those people, and sometimes they're the people that are closest to you, are going to give you negative feedback, right? So they're going to say things like people said to me when I first started my freight brokerage. I told a few people around me, and some of them said to me, Dennis, what are you, crazy? You don't know anything about logistics. You've never been in the freight industry. Why would you do that? Why don't you just go get a job? Right? And that's what I heard from several people. I mean, I had a lot of people around me that did support me. Don't get me wrong, particularly my wife and some of my close family members. But I had other people that were looking at me like I had a big green eyeball sticking out of the middle of my forehead, and they thought I was crazy. And so they gave me a lot of negative feedback. So you need to be prepared for that. It's okay to share what you're doing with a small group of people that you trust. Just know that some of them are going to give you negative feedback, and I don't want that to derail you, because sometimes that negative feedback can make you second guess your idea, your process, your goals, right? And also having too many people in your ear giving you too much feedback can be very confusing and overwhelming. So that's a huge distraction. Number 1, listening to too many people. All right. So you have to understand that. That's number 1. Number 2 on the list, mistaking busyness for productive. Let me say that again. Mistaking busyness for productive. We as humans are hardwired to believe that being busy is equal to being productive. And it's not true. Okay. I know a lot of people that are very busy, doing all these things. They got 25 things on their to-do list, and they're really busy because they directly correlate busy with being successful. And I understand, because I fell victim to that as well early in my career. And I think we all do. But understand, there's a difference between being busy and productive. What your goal is to be productive, not busy, right? Would you rather achieve 5 really important, tasks in a given week? Or would you rather achieve 10 not so important tasks in a week, right? The value of those activities and those tasks are not all the same. You've probably heard me talk about it before, and sorry about that, but my nose is itching. So you've probably heard me talk about that before in different trainings where I talk about the Pareto Principle or the 80-20 rule. And that is, if you make a to-do list of 10 activities, you sit down in the morning, you make a to-do list of 10 activities. The Pareto Principle says that there's 2 activities on that list that will help you to achieve more goal, the 80-20. So it will help you to move further in your business and be more productive and profitable than the other 8 combined, right? So you have to understand, not all activity is the same, right? And so being busy is not the goal. Being productive is the goal, right? And so you have to be conscious of that. I used to have this really long to-do list every day when I was a young entrepreneur. And, in most cases, even they were just different activities that I either really weren't that important, I should have delegated, or just didn't belong on my list. And so but because I had this long list, I felt like I had something to strive for, something, and that I was going to be busy and that equaled success. And reality is, these days, when I get up in the morning, and this has been going on for, 15 years or more, I usually only have 2 or 3 things on my list, but they are really important, high value activities. So I don't have this big, long to-do list. I'm not busy all day. I have all kinds of white space where I can think, be creative, and have a little bit of flexibility to do the things that evolve throughout the day. But I usually only have a couple of really important things. So don't mistake busy for being productive, right? And so you have to learn to focus on those high value activities, right? All right. So that's number 2, mistaking busyness for productive. All right. Number 3, this is one that I see a lot, and this is a difficult one. Procrastinating on critical tasks. So procrastinating on critical tasks. I see a lot of startup brokers. Okay. And many times they avoid the most valuable and important component to starting and growing a successful business, and that is prospecting. I'll see a lot of startups, they'll avoid it. They will procrastinate. They'll put it off till the afternoon. And then the next thing you know, they'll put it off till tomorrow. And the next thing you know, it's 3 days and 5 days and a week later, and they've done little or no prospecting. And prospecting is the lifeblood of any B2B service business. You have to be prospecting. I mean, you're not selling an e-commerce product. You're selling a service which requires you to actually talk to your prospects. So you're either dialoguing with them via email or social media or over the phone or on a Zoom call or face-to-face. And so prospecting is a key component of building a successful brokerage. But I see a lot of startup brokers procrastinating and pushing it off. And the reason why is because they're uncomfortable with it, right? It gets them out of their comfort zone. And so what happens is they end up focusing on these other tasks that are not nearly as important, right? And so, they focus on things like, like setting up their website or software or business cards. And those are all important things. But let's face it, guys, none of those are nearly as critical or important as prospecting. And so I promise you, you don't need a business card in order to get a shipper as a freight broker. I promise you, you absolutely don't need a website to get your first shipper. Now, these are all good things to have. But I'm going to tell you right now that you can do business as a freight broker or freight agent without those things. But here's what you can't do without. You can't do without prospecting. You can't do without having conversations with your target market. Okay. So procrastinating on critical issues is a huge, huge mistake. And it's a huge issue. And I see it all the time, particularly when it comes to selling and prospecting. Okay. So that's number 3, procrastinating on critical tasks. And number 4, this is one that's near and dear to my heart. And that is, it derails many, many entrepreneurs, whether you're a startup or not. And that is saying yes to everything. We as humans have a tendency to want to be people pleasers. We like to say yes. And as an entrepreneur, you are going to have lots of things thrown at you, particularly if you become successful, or even as a startup. You're going to have a lot of people asking you for help or trying to sell you something, whatever the case may be. You have to understand that when you say yes to one thing, inherently you're saying no to something else, because time is finite. There's only so many hours in a day, right? What is it? I think there's only 168 hours in a week. And that may seem like a lot, but when you factor out 6 to 8 hours of sleep and a few hours with the family, the next thing you know, that gets whittled down. So you have a very finite amount of time, right, to achieve your goals. And so saying yes to everything is a surefire way to derail the success of your freight brokerage. And so, don't be a people pleaser. You can't say yes to everything. And here's a few things. I made a list of a few things that startup entrepreneurs and freight brokers need to say no to. Say no to other business ideas. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to ask you to join them in business or invest in a business or ask for feedback on their business or want to talk to you about their business. And just say no to that. That's a huge distraction. And I know it may seem a little harsh, particularly if it's a friend, but you have to understand you have a finite amount of time and you have to use and leverage that time to the absolute maximum in order to grow your business, to survive and to thrive and to hit your goals. So learning how to say no is a really important thing. So say no to investing in other businesses. Say no to people that ask if they can pick your brain. I get this all the time. Hey, can we get on a call and can I pick your brain? I would love to help you. Unfortunately, this is the best way. Fortunately, this is the best way for me to help you, which is to be able to distribute this type of training and information to thousands of people versus doing it one-on-one. Because this takes me an hour and I hit tens of thousands of people with this message over the course of the next 30 days. But if I spent 1 hour with you having coffee or a Zoom call or whatever, as much as I'd love to do that, it's just not the best use of my time. And so that saying yes to those type of things like, can I pick your brain? Those things are not a good use of your time, particularly as a startup. Another one is, salespeople or businesses trying to sell you stuff, getting on the phone with salespeople, them wanting to sell you stuff. Waste of your time. Don't waste your time. If it's not a critical component of your business, say no, right? And then anything that's what I would consider non-strategic networking. So I'm not saying no to all networking, but I am saying no to anything that's not strategic. If it doesn't directly align you as a freight broker, if it doesn't directly align you with a shipper, a carrier, an employee that's going to work from you, or some component of technology that is going to directly impact your business, don't network, right? Networking is not for startups, not generic networking. I don't want you out there going to networking events and people hitting you up on LinkedIn and saying, hey, let's jump on a call and, help each other out and figure out, what you do and what I do. Don't do that. Don't waste your time. I promise you, the best thing you can do is focus on the high priority activities, which I've already shared with you, some of them. Obviously, prospecting is an important component of that. So rather than you spending an hour in a can I pick your brain call or someone trying to pitch you on their idea, what you're better off doing is spending that hour prospecting or defining your niche or developing carrier relationships or understanding the rating in your niche or in your different lanes and areas that you're going to focus in on. So understand, those are the 4 big mistakes, right? Big distractions that could derail you. Number 1, listening to too many people. Number 2, mistaking busyness for productivity. Number 3, procrastinating on critical issues. And number 4, saying yes to everything. Those are 4 huge distractions that you have to be, number 1, prepared for. And number 2, address as they come. And I promise you, they're going to happen. If they haven't happened to you already, they're going to happen. Right? And so I wanted to share those 4 with you today because I think it's really important. I like to set expectations for my students and for my followers and for people that want to start a freight brokerage or a freight agency. I want you to understand these are things that are all going to impact you either starting today or somewhere in the next 3 to 6 months. You're probably going to face some of these challenges. So my goal is to head it off at the pass and prepare you for that so that you can recognize when those things are happening to you and you can address them so that they don't derail your business. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you are curious about becoming a freight broker or freight agent, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com, the most cost-effective, comprehensive online freight broker training program available today. We've got multiple memberships, lifetime memberships, 1-year gold memberships. Over 8,000 students have been trained through that course, been in business over a decade, and most importantly, we offer a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. If you're not happy, just send us an email and we'll send your money back. It's absolutely no problem, okay? So if you're curious about that, maybe you're a truck driver and you've been thinking about starting a freight brokerage, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Maybe you're the spouse of a truck driver and you've been thinking about starting a freight broker business. check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Maybe you work in logistics on the shipper side or on the carrier side or wherever, and you've been thinking about starting a freight brokerage or a freight agency. Check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. You won't be disappointed. I truly appreciate you being here.